Wealth inequality, part of our lecture series on inequality. In this video, we're going to discuss how wealth inequality is also an important measure of inequality in addition to income inequality. We'll talk about how wealth inequality in America is more unequal than income inequality. And we'll talk about a couple of public policy ways to resolve wealth inequality. I want to mention a disclaimer before we get started, and this actually applies to our other videos, is that this weekly series on inequality is going to solely focus on the United States. Other countries are either more or less unequal than the US. Most developed countries are less unequal, but the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this and further lectures are going to be about the US specifically. You've already learned about income inequality, and I'm just showing you this chart to remind you about the income inequality in the different quintiles, and quintiles just means we've divided it up into 5 sections. So, people that if you line up everybody in terms of income, from the highest income to the lowest income, then the 20% with the highest income are in the highest income quintile, and then the next section of 20% is in the 4th quintile, and so on, until the lowest income quintile is the bottom 20% of people are earning money. So you've learned that already, but focusing on income inequality is really only one part of the story. We really want to also take a look at wealth, because wealth is the sum of all of the assets that a person or a household has. And this includes all sorts of things like just cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, ownership in companies, whatever things that people could sell for money counts as part of their wealth. And wealth is probably the most important indicator of financial status. The thing about wealth is that wealth allows us, or people who have wealth, allows for cushioning during shocks, also allows for more risk-taking due to that cushioning being available. It allows for more investment opportunities because there are investment opportunities that are only open to people who have enough money to fund a large part of an investment opportunity, and also allows more networking by having other people of the same economic status that they can talk to and get opportunities from and learn from. So wealth provides all of these things. If we think about wealth inequality, and you think about this compared to the income inequality graph we saw earlier, you can see that wealth inequality, we're much more unequal than income inequality. In fact, the wealthiest quintile, the 20% of Americans with the most wealth, control 90% of the wealth in America. And you can see from the breakout here on the right, the wealthiest 1% control 40% of the overall wealth. And in fact, the least wealthy 3 quintiles, in other words, the bottom 60% in terms of wealth, control only 2% of the wealth in America. Now, you'll notice that the textbook focuses more on income inequality than wealth inequality, but I do want you to know that there are people that focus on wealth inequality, including Thomas Piketty, who wrote a famous book about 8 or 9 years ago called Capital in the 21st Century. Besides Professor Piketty, there aren't that many people who specialize in this. In fact, there are more people that look at income inequality, basically because it's easier to measure, and also because the fixes to wealth inequality are well known, and really the implementation is really due to popular disapproval more than any sort of economic policy making. There are 2 ways to fix wealth inequality. The first one is to just have a tax on wealth. And this is a measure that Piketty lays out in his book. Just a tax on the people's wealth. You just find out what their wealth is, and you do a flat tax off the top of that, and that would fix a lot of the wealth inequality. The other way is to tax estates. In other words, to put a tax on people's wealth once they die. This is a way that has been traditionally used in America, but this has been de-emphasized lately as its opponents have described it as a death tax, which makes it astoundingly unpopular with the populace, even though most people, when they die, would not be subject to this tax, which is currently only applied to households that have above $5 or $6 million in wealth currently. So wealth is more unequal than income in America, and the fixes for this are unpopular. Thank you.